Imagine
A podcast.
where time drifts slowly,
A podcast.
where
Isaac.
carries you away.
So let me be clear. We tortured some folks.
Now, please welcome the 46th President of the United States, Joe Biden.
How are you? Great to be here. Thank you.
Did you think it was a stutter? I wasn't shocked. I was bored. Nor am I shocked by Biden's renewed vigor about staying in the race.
We had a little debate last week. Can't say it was my best performance. But ever since then, there's been a lot of speculation. What's Joe going to do? Is he going to stay in the race? Is he going to drop out? What's he going to do? Well, here's my answer. I am running and going to win again.
No one just gives away power. It doesn't help that one of Biden's closest advisors, it turns out, is Hunter Biden. I don't know if y'all knew that. Also, I would vote for Hunter Biden, maybe 2024. Why not? I actually think he did just fine. This is the Biden I have always known, right? For the past 4 years now. Did you think it was a stutter? Do you remember all those articles they wrote in 2020 shaming you for your ableism when you question Joe Biden's cognitive abilities? There was that article from Atlantic Monthly. What Joe Biden can't bring himself to say. Check out the cover. It's a very regal-looking Biden staring at you, but with like soft eyes. Like, don't you feel bad for me? There was the UCLA Health magazine. Joe Biden's history of stuttering sheds light on the condition. Do you feel bad yet? And then there was PBS Frontline's Biden Stutter, How a Childhood Battle Shaped His Approach to Life and Politics.
Joey Biden's crisis was stuttering.
He came of age in another time in which people weren't as open about disorders or disabilities or setbacks. When the common prescription was buck up.
My grandfather died of Alzheimer's and dementia some years ago. It took him about 8 years, I'd say, to succumb to the disease. And while it was unpleasant, it wasn't all bad. Early on, there was something almost joyful about him. When he had all his faculties about him, he's kind of a naturally prickly guy. But the disease took the edges off him, and he seemed happier. He joked around more, took himself less seriously, made more fun of himself, and it was good for a little. Then it got sad, and he was a proud man, and there were times when you'd watch him reach for the words that no longer came to him, and he got prickly again. It was rough. And I'd hate to say it, but Biden reminds me a lot of my grandfather in those waning years, particularly the years where he started to get sad. That said, Trump didn't look much better. There's a really good chance that neither of these men live to see the 2028 election, which I guess is optimistic. It's hopeful, right? I won't be voting for Biden, and I've made that clear. But I will be voting. I not to be a nerd or anything, or I don't know. A lot of my radical commie friends would probably give me a hard time about this, but I don't even miss special elections. I will vote for school board members on an off-cycle August. It's I don't know why not. It doesn't really take much effort to vote, so I do it. But I've lost faith in federal elections. I don't really see them functioning, and there's just nobody I want to vote for, so I'm probably not gonna. I have the luxury of not having to vote for president because I live in the free state of Florida. Don't come here. That doesn't mean that I want Trump or think Trump won't be worse. He will be worse in a number of ways. But not with that Project 2025 nonsense that liberals are going to be pumping as some kind of like Handmaid's Tale policy. I mean, it's bad. It's bad. But I think it's overblown. I'm more concerned with the Project for a New American Century back in, 2000. And nobody seemed to give a shit about that, or even still. But yeah, I don't fear. I do fear a Trump presidency. I'm not gonna lie. It's not something I look forward to. But it's how much worse is it going to be? I don't know. I don't think it'll be a abortion. I don't think we're going to lose abortion. Don't forget that it was under the Biden administration that the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, and that they held that carrot in front of us in 2020. If you don't fucking get Biden elected, we're going to lose. Women are going to lose the right to choose. Well, they gave us the stick, if I remember correctly. I don't want to hear that it was under Trump that these justices were put in place, because you can't start history at a point that is convenient to your narrative, because I would just rewind it and talk about Ruth Bader Ginsburg and how Obama totally fucking fumbled that ball. Biden could do things, but the sanctity of our institutions mustn't be sullied with actual politics. Don't forget. I do believe they are two cheeks of the same ass. It's just that one of those cheeks has got like a little shit on it. Didn't like wipe properly. Biden said it all recently when he said, "I'll adopt Trump's policies, but never Trump's rhetoric." At my most cynical, there's this idea that the Dems don't want to be in charge for some of the coming horrors, particularly the migrant problem. The kids are still in cages. Biden has sided with conservatives on border policies. Even Obama was responsible for record deportation numbers, particularly those of the tens of thousands of Haitians that braved those waters to get here. He fucking booted them. He got rid of them. It's, again, don't forget these things, right? But Trump is pumping bloodlust into the mouths of Americans. They're just foaming, red foam. I see it. He started his campaign with hate, calling Mexicans rapists and murderers. And that's how he's going to finish his campaign. Every chance he got, he brought up the migrant crisis at the debate. And Biden did nothing to stop him. He even agreed. He was like, "Oh, yeah, that rape happened." Yeah, okay. Build that wall, baby. That's they don't really seem to disagree there. And even if they do build that wall, then there is a wall there. I'd like to. Did you know there's a wall at the border? Anyway, the migrants will not stop coming, and that's not because this is the greatest country on earth. It's because we ruined the countries that they're coming from. For hundreds of years now, the United States has wrought violence and unimaginable horrors on Central and South America. And the people who come from there are forced to spend tens of thousands of dollars and risk life and limb to get here, only to be these villains in our eyes and of really sad and stupid people. To turn them away after burning down their homes, just, it doesn't sit well with me. You know, have you seen the videos of the Border Patrol that hike around the desert, finding cached water bottles and emptying them out? I mean, can you imagine having that fucking job? There are children, by the way. There are children who are braving the desert, and people leave water bottles near the border or on the way so that these people don't fucking die. And what we have Border Patrol do is empty out the bottle. I mean, Jesus Christ. It's also strange to me that a lot of those Border Patrol agents are first-gen immigrants from Mexico or other Central and South American countries. Now, there is something so corrupting about becoming an American. You know, that once you cross that border, you are infected with this kind of fear. That's that scarcity mentality. There was a Fox News interview recently at the Texas border of recent migrants who are crossing. You know, there's Biden's border. He just wants these people to come in here and vote for him. And you know, so this anchor is there, fear mongering as they do, and everyone's polite, really. They talk to, and he speaks to this one Turkish man who has just crossed over, like minutes into the United States. And as his feet touched American soil, he turned into a true American. He started to warn Fox viewers of the dangers of immigrants coming into our country.
Did you have to pay a cartel?
Yes.
How much?
Around 10,000.
10,000?
Yes. In fact, the American people is right, completely true. Who come into this country, they don't know. Well, okay, I'm good, but how if they're not good? How they're killer, psychopath, else? No guarantee of that. Why, like no security, no security check, no background check.
No security check, no background check. You're worrying about who's crossing the border?
Yes. Of course, me, because I'm like, people are not look normal.
That's got to be the world record for the fastest assimilation to American culture I've ever seen. The saddest joke of all is that the migrants aren't going to stop coming. In spite of how horrible we treat them, in spite of how costly it is, in spite of how dangerous it is for the families who are left behind, who are frequently held hostage. I've heard stories of a lot of migrant workers here who don't have the $10,000 it costs to take a coyote to the United States, and so they take a loan of sorts, right? They pay in installments, probably more than $10,000 at that point, and if they don't pay, some bad shit happens to their family they left behind. The joke, of course, is that the American economy has, and always will be built on the backs of cheap labor. We need them, and we need to punish them for it on top of it. We are resentful for our need. It must be. I always hear a kind of begrudging respect from some blue-collarish conservatives, this respect they have for the migrant workers that they've known, because, oh boy, do they work hard. Can't get a white boy to do that. And yet they still want their blood. So in the end, Biden and Trump, they really do have the same policies by and large. But Trump will need to satisfy the bloodthirst. He will need to make shows of violence.
We must institute the death penalty. It's actually an act of kindness and a powerful death penalty. We will put this on. We have to bring in the death penalty if we want to stop.
I wouldn't be surprised by public executions or extrajudicial violence that goes unpunished or even pardoned. We already saw Texas Governor Greg Abbott pardon that freak Daniel Perry. He was that guy in 2021, I think. He was jailed for 25 years for shooting dead a protester in Austin, Texas at a BLM march. But it's not bad all the time, folks. It's not always bad, I promise. Julian Assange, I'm going to say Assange, was freed. I was certain he was going to be left for dead. Apparently, the U.S. justice system, instead of having him murdered, they could have executed him for treason here in the United States, even though he's an Australian citizen. They decided to cut a deal with him because had they gone to court, all the crazy plans to murder Assange would have come to light. Yeah, that's right. The Trump administration plotted to assassinate Assange should he escape from the Ecuadorian embassy. This was back in 2017. Mike Pompeo, who was the CIA director, and his top officials were furious about WikiLeaks, particularly the publication of Vault 7. I don't know if I've ranted about Vault 7 before, and I joke about how I'll never get in a Tesla because of Vault 7, or really any car that can be taken over by a computer. Basically, Vault 7 is a CIA hacking tool that allows it to backdoor any device. Like your phone, your computer, your car, your dishwasher. The CIA could fuck with you and shrink your clothes, I guess. I don't know. But it was considered at the time the biggest data loss in its history. And so a lot of senior officials inside the CIA went as far to request sketches or options for killing Assange. And apparently there seemed to be no boundaries. They were willing to do some kooky shit, including kidnapping Assange, who was in London at the time at the Ecuadorian embassy. They were going to do things as dumb as just like leaving a door open and being like, oh, what do you know? We can go in. There were talks of poisoning him. There was even a plot, I believe, to shoot down an airplane should he get on one. The CIA admitted that the only reason they actually didn't go through with these plans was because it was in a first world country, and had it been in a third world country, and this is a quote, this isn't Pakistan or Egypt, we're talking about London, they would have gone through with it. I'm a little disappointed that there hasn't been more coverage on Assange's liberation. It's a big deal that he got let go. It wouldn't portend well for journalists or data leakers or whistleblowers or anybody had he been tried in the United States and convicted and potentially killed. There was a lot more sanctimoniousness around Navalny. In fact, there was a recent Daily Show episode, and I watch it very rarely. Do not give me a hard fucking time for watching the Daily Show, where they were wishy-washy on Assange's release. They didn't celebrate it. They're like, oh, maybe he's a bad guy. I don't know.
Assange, celebrated by some as a hero, reviled by others as a reckless vandal, published state secrets of country after country, none more damaging than the vast trove of U.S. classified documents WikiLeaks posted online starting in 2010, at the height of U.S. wars in Iraq and Afghanistan.
That's right. WikiLeaks founder and man who looks like he feeds James Bond to sharks, Julian Assange, is out of prison. Let's be honest, a lot of the stuff he leaked, we already knew. America was doing bad shit in Iraq. The DNC was in cahoots with Hillary's campaign. It's like how you kind of already knew that your wife was banging her tennis instructor, but it's nice to have it confirmed. By the way, in that example, I'm the tennis instructor. Now, some people think Assange is a villain for revealing state secrets, while others argue that the states shouldn't have had those secrets in the first place. But what irks me about Assange is that he didn't reveal any of the secrets I wanted to know. He's going to dump literally millions of documents and not a single one was about aliens or who killed JFK or why they never made a Forrest Gump sequel. I mean, I don't want 10 Fast and Furious sequels. I want to see Forrest Gump accidentally invent the Macarena, right? Yeah.
Meanwhile, they shed all kinds of crocodile tears for Alexei Navalny, the Russian opposition figure who Putin probably killed, maybe. I don't know. It should be noted that Navalny, the liberal darling, only because he opposes Putin, happens to be a rabid Islamophobe and a right-wing nationalist who courted like serious Nazi factions in Russia. So I don't know why they wouldn't show the same love for Assange. But in other good news, and this is good news, okay? A federal jury in Florida says that the fruit giant Chiquita Banana is liable for killings between 1997 and 2004 by a Colombian right-wing paramilitary group that Chiquita, the banana company, gave millions of dollars to. Even though the U.S. State Department said, yeah, they're terrorists, you can't do that. So, all right, hold on, folks. Hold on real tight. I'm about to take you down a banana boat ride with some wild twists and turns. And after you hear all this, you will never, ever allow a vegan to moralize to you again. Bananas turn out to be some pretty rotten fruit, responsible for the death and sterilization of millions of people. And would you be surprised that bananas helped create the state of Israel?
I'm Chiquita Banana, and I've come to say bananas have to ripen in a certain way, and when they're flecked with brown and have a golden hue, bananas taste the best and are the best for you. You can put them in a salad.
All right, if you want to listen to more, particularly about the bananas, and shove it in the face of your annoying vegan friends, you gotta go pay for it. This is a paywalled episode of Coexist Incorporated. I gotta do it. I'm sorry. I didn't want to. It's been tough. I don't like doing it, but I gotta try. I gotta encourage you guys to make this my full-time career. And that means you gotta pay like $5 a month. Which, like, come on, that's not a lot. It's $5. $5. Head on over to patreon.com/coexistinc or click the link in the bio, blah, 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 do that stuff. And enjoy the rest of the show. You leeches, come on.
Daylight come and we want go home. Work all night on a drink of rum. Daylight come and we want go home. Stack banana till the morning come.
Back in June, a Florida jury in a federal court awarded the families of 8 men killed by the AUC, the Autodefensas Unidas de Colombia, like my accent, the United Self-Defense Forces of Colombia, a State Department designated terrorist organization, right-wing paramilitary in Colombia. They decided that Chiquita brands were liable for these killings, having paid millions of dollars to the terrorist group between the years of 1997 and 2004. Of course, Chiquita Banana is appealing. Okay, I'm not trying to make a joke here. I'm not, okay, there is no purposeful banana puns henceforth, okay? If they happen, they're entirely incidental. Okay, so back to the story. Chiquita claimed that they were being blackmailed to protect their workers, that they weren't paying the paramilitary organizations these millions of dollars to do their bidding. Rather, they were just, trying to protect their property, their workers. That's still illegal. And what's also kind of funny is Chiquita seemed to be more than happy to help smuggle weapons aboard their cargo ships and provide these weapons to the terrorist organization. They failed to kind of explain that. Now, while this is good news, we are holding these companies accountable for their crimes. I say good news with an asterisk the size of the Panama Canal, because the banana industrial complex is so sinister and powerful, they appear untouchable. Too banana to fail. In fact, back in 1977, the chemical, I don't even know how to pronounce this, dibromochloropropane. Dibromochloropropane. I'm going to call it DBCP. It's an active ingredient in the pesticide Nemagon, which was a pesticide to get rid of nematodes. Don't get me started on nematodes. I hate those fucking things. But it was banned in 1977 in the United States after it was found to have caused sterility among thousands of male workers who were exposed to it at the Dow, Shell, and Occidental plants across America. Great, victory, no more chemicals, right? Yeah, that's not how it worked. They moved it to a third world country, Nicaragua in particular, where they happened to sterilize entire villages in the couple of years they used it there. It gave them all kinds of cancer too, and it wasn't until the Sandinistas came in and kicked out the banana company that they would stop using this horrifying chemical. Decades later, Nicaraguan courts found Dow and Dole banana liable. It wasn't really hard to find. They made it quite clear they knew what they were doing and they just didn't care. The evidence was damning. There was even some correspondence between Dow and Dole executives that revealed they knew exactly what was going on. And in fact, one of the executives said they have a population problem anyway. So you got to wonder how that guy sleeps at night. Or a woman. Who knows? But the company refused to pay. "We're based in the United States. You have no jurisdiction," they claimed. When the case was brought to a U.S. federal court, the U.S. judge would eventually throw out the case and the $97 million awarded to these victims, saying that the Nicaraguan proceedings were biased against the companies. Again, in 2009, a Californian judge threw out separate lawsuits brought in the United States against Dow and Dole after ruling that the plaintiffs and their lawyers used fraudulent tactics, including faked sterility tests and plaintiffs who never worked on banana plantations. However, there's very considerable evidence that these counter lawsuits were entirely cooked up by Dow and Dole. They smeared these attorneys and the victims as phonies. And the judge, to quote-unquote protect the identities of these people who stood up and said, "Oh yeah, we were paid actors to protect their identities," they sealed it shut permanently. So we'll never be able to know the truth about this. And as a consequence, not a single dollar has been rewarded to any of the victims. So yeah, who knows if this latest verdict will stick at all.
Number one, here we go. Banana.
So I made a joke about the Chiquita verdict back in June. It came out the same day as the Hunter Biden guilty verdict for possession of a gun as a convicted pedophile, was it? I can't remember what it was, for drugs. So I made a meme, as I do. And, okay, bear with me here as I explain a joke. There is a image that is frequently put up, an anti-Semitic image, and it's of a Hasidic Jew kind of standing sneakily next to a wall with one of those giant old cell phones. And the joke has always been like, release the whatever, like to like distract people from what's going on. So what I did was I turned the Jew into a Jewish banana from a cartoon banana, and it said, "Release the Hunter Biden verdict." Stupid joke. It's meant to like make fun of Jewish conspiracies. I don't know. I shouldn't have to explain jokes. But anyway, someone asked me in the comment section why I had to turn this into something Jewish. As a Jew, I don't like to have to explain myself. I don't feel like I should have to explain myself, but I kind of felt compelled to show that there was probably some not great actors from my tribe involved in this. And, oh boy, it is way worse than I thought it would be. So as an aside, I want to make it clear, I don't take any pleasure in learning about how some Jewish guy has a hand in something bad. You know, every time I read about some sort of financial conspiracy or child sex trafficking case, I close my eyes, I cross my fingers, and I say a little mantra. Please don't be Jewish. Please don't be Jewish. Please don't be Jewish. Well, I didn't get my wish this time because there are some Jews involved in these banana shenanigans. Let me introduce you to Mr. Sam Zemurray. He's also known as Sam the Banana Man. Zemurray is basically like if Daniel Plainview from There Will Be Blood dealt in fruit instead of oil. I almost did the I drink your banana milkshake. Sorry. I won't say drainage as much as I want to right now. Zemurray, a Russian Jew who arrived in America in 1891 when he was just 14 years old, would become one of the wealthiest men in the world for a period of time. But his banana empire is built on blood. He is responsible for overthrowing the Honduran government. In 1911, he basically made a naval fleet of mercenaries and overthrew the democratically elected president of Honduras and replaced him with a dictator who said, yeah, you don't have to worry about ever paying taxes ever again. You're good. Don't worry. He also famously convinced the U.S. government to get the CIA to overthrow Jacobo Arbenz in Guatemala in 1953, 4? I don't have my notes. But that was actually, I will say, the Guatemalan coup was my entrance into Latin American Revolution. My high school history teacher, Mrs. Resendes, had us read this book called Bitter Fruit, which wasn't particularly radical, but it did introduce me to Latin American Revolution and is part of the reason why I ended up living in Nicaragua and Cuba for a little while. It's also part of the reason why Fidel didn't want to initially be identified as a communist, because Zemurray hired this other guy whose name escapes me right now, but he's another Jew. God damn it, right? Fuck. To create this propaganda campaign to convince not just the United States, but the people of Guatemala themselves that there's some sort of communist takeover in their country. So basically, since then, Guatemala has been a fucking mess. And there's probably millions of deaths as a consequence. I mean, they're still uncovering these mass graves. It's just been one civil war after another since Arbenz. And I won't get too deep into Guatemala and Arbenz and Zemurray. Suffice to say, you go to hell for something like that. He also, Zemurray, delivered the needed votes for the partition of Israel. Which, God, can you believe that Israel exists because of bananas? Anyway, the first president of the state of Israel, Chaim Weizmann, sent a telegram to Zemurray to secure the needed votes for the 1947 UN partition of Israel that paved the way for Israel's declaration of independence the following year. The story goes that Zemurray was so powerful that all he had to do, he just picked up the phone and he called the leaders of Costa Rica, Nicaragua, El Salvador, Guatemala, Haiti, Colombia, and Honduras and said, yeah, you're going to vote for Israel's partition. So Zemurray holds high esteem in the eyes of Zionist Jews. Also, for whatever reason, Indian guys on Twitter, like I found these Twitter threads that were basically like copy paste, and they were all glorifying the entrepreneurial spirit of Sam the Banana Man Zemurray. Now, Zemurray died in 1961. He was just barely alive for the United Fruits Company's involvement in the Bay of Pigs fiasco. That's when the company lent 2 of its freighters to the CIA for use during the unsuccessful invasion of Cuba. Zemurray wasn't in charge. He would die several months later. But you can tell that, it shouldn't be surprised then that corporations, U.S. corporations, and the Central Intelligence Agency have had and will always have an incredibly cozy relationship. Zemurray's death wouldn't end Zionist involvement in banana republics, however. After Zemurray came Eli Black. He was a Wall Street goon, and he took over United Fruit in 1970, promising windfalls of cash for his investors. Well, 4 years later, he'd jump out of a 44-story window in Manhattan. In fact, there's a scene in the Coen Brothers movie, The Hudsucker Proxy. Good Jews, mind you. I have to remember to remind everybody. There's some good Jews out there. The Coen Brothers, probably their worst movie, The Hudsucker Proxy. There's that scene of the guy who jumps out the window. Supposedly, it's inspired by Eli Black's quote-unquote suicide. So what happened was the company hit some dire straits, some financial dire straits when Hurricane Fifi, which we really got to toughen up hurricane names because Fifi is just, come on, you can't strike fear in the hearts of people when like Fifi beats your ass or whatever. It Fifi flattened the fields where the fruit grew, and the taxes, particularly in Honduras, had skyrocketed. So United Fruit was in some trouble. And in order to fix things, Black did what United Fruit had always done. He oversaw a bribe to the Honduras economic minister to the tune of $1.25 million. Well, he got caught. Or so the story goes. And what he would do is take his attaché case and smash open the skyscraper window and jump to his death. Now, I don't know anything about windows, skyscraper windows, whatever, but I can't help but imagine that it would be pretty tough, unless they're shitty, faulty. It'd be pretty tough to bust open a window. And I don't know who knows, but he died and they ruled it a suicide. But the more interesting component of Eli Black's life is Eli Black's son. Now, Eli Black was a Zionist, not particularly noted. I did read that he, the day before he died, was grumbling about the state of Israel. I didn't find out about precisely what, but if you're on Wall Street and you're a Jew, chances are fan of Israel. But his son, Leon Black, would avenge the family name by becoming a Wall Street billionaire. He was the CEO of private equity giant Apollo Global Management. Now, you might recognize Mr. Leon Black from the Epstein flight logs. He paid Epstein $158 million for, quote, tax and estate management. He also was accused of raping a teenager with Down syndrome, amongst a whole host of other, scandalous, awful behavior. And yes, he gives Israel a lot of money. I think he probably paid for my birthright trip. I'm not done yet, though, because after Eli Black's tragic death, the company was sold to another Zionist, Howard Milstein of the NYC real estate magnate Milsteins, the Milstein family. I don't know too much about Milstein, but when I saw that name, I was like, oh my, this is even closer to home. because I think it's his niece, Gloria Milstein Flanzer, has a building with her name just down the street from me. The Flanzers in Sarasota, Florida, are this Jewish philanthropic family. They founded, I think the JCC or whatever. I almost wrote a story about her grandson. I'm going to do a quick aside about this because I never got to tell this story. It's a funny one. Her grandson was a fucking loser. He was this dweeby Jewish kid who wanted to be a gangster. And so he started dressing the part, he started slinging drugs around town, and he had a lot of guns. He got taken. Some dude scammed him out of hundreds of thousands of dollars. And he lived, the guy who scammed him, in a condo just by the water in downtown Sarasota. Well, the young Flanzer decided that he would dress up like a security guard and go get his money back. So he put on, a black suit, whatever, bulletproof vest, had guns, went to the guy's apartment, and wasn't home. So he decided to shoot down the door. He quickly realized that the door was bulletproof. You can't bust down that door as easily as Eli Black busted open that skyscraper window. Subsequently, there would be a 3-hour standoff with the SWAT team in the lobby of this condo building. Can you guess how many days in jail the young Flanzer spent? Fucking 0. He was shipped off to some rehab facility in California. I wanted to write a story comparing the way that our judicial system treats this rich kid versus the way it treats poor kids in town. I never got to write that story. Not yet. We'll see. Anyway, United Fruit, which changed its name to Chiquita Banana in 1984, wasn't always run by Jewish Zionists. It was also run by Midwestern Protestant Zionists. In 1984, Carl Linder Jr. became the controlling investor of Chiquita. But despite not being one of the chosen people, he continued Chiquita's bloody corporate practices and continued to support the state of Israel. Although Linder was a devout Baptist, he was considered as one of the largest non-Jewish donors to the organized Jewish community in the United States. In 1978, he was named the Man of the Year by the United Jewish Appeal. I'm still waiting for mine, Man of the Year, anyway. And later, he was named a recipient of the Tree of Life Award for the Jewish National Fund, and was recognized as the largest non-Jewish purchaser of Israel bonds. So, there you go. Now, there are endless horror stories of the banana industrial complex. I didn't really even get into the 1928 banana massacre in Ciénaga, Colombia. This is where the workers started to revolt against United Fruit's practices. United Fruit turned these entire towns into company towns and made the people, they wouldn't even pay these people in money. They paid them in vouchers and made them use their commissars or whatever you call them. And the workers started to organize and said, no, fuck that. we deserve better rights. And they were kind of asking for just fucking peanuts, really. But they couldn't have that. United Fruit couldn't have that. So they told their buddies over in the United States, hey, we got some fucking commies, trying to fucking mess up our shit in Colombia. So the United States reached out to the Colombian government and said, you better put this down before we come in there and put it down ourselves and start accusing you of being a communist, like they later would to Arbenz. Well, the Colombian military decided to station gunners on the top of roofs for a big political rally in Ciénaga, Colombia, where over 30,000 people showed up. It was just after Mass, and they're all in the streets, and they're like camped out there. These families came to support the cause, to better their lives. Well, before the event even got started, the military said, you have 5 minutes to leave. 30,000 people leaving these streets, it's not possible in 5 minutes. So they opened fire. and they just shot everyone. So the Colombian military said, oh, we killed 47 people. No big deal, right? 47 peaceful protesters, come on. The number's probably closer to 3,000. So yeah, 100 years later, Chiquita Banana would end up paying $38.3 million to the descendants of the people they killed in Colombia, I'm sure. Justice, right? I love that. The arc of justice, the arc of the universe bends towards justice, right? Sure. There's a whole, I mean, God, I could do 10 hours on banana stuff. Did you know that the Dulles brothers were heavily invested in United Fruits? I mean, yeah, well, no conflict of interest there, I'm sure. I mean, what a relief that the Dulles brothers, not Jewish, right? Thank you. I also, speaking of the Dulles brothers, did you see that the New York law firm Sullivan and Cromwell said that they would not hire pro-Palestinian protesters? Boo, right? Well, the funny thing about Sullivan and Cromwell, who the Dulles brothers worked for, they represented the United Fruit Company during the coup in Guatemala, amongst other things. Sullivan and Cromwell's a funny bit of like neoliberal nonsense. Like liberals would love them because did you know that they were the first to hire like a Jewish lawyer and a black lawyer? Yeah, isn't that great? Yeah, they also represented I.G. Farben during World War II and helped create Zyklon B. You know, yeah, they love Jews, I'm sure. So yeah, I guess to wrap things up, I guess I would just say there are zero principles here, only dollars. And it doesn't matter if you're a WASP or a Zionist Jew. This disease of money infects anybody. And so the nightmare Ouroboros continues. You know, it's not enough for us to destroy these people's homes. You know, for a century, for the better part of a century, we have just, we've created nightmares, living nightmares for totally innocent people. Just trying to live for fucking bananas that you let rot anyway. Bananas aren't even good for you. Did you know that? They have a very high glycemic index. So to turn away at the border and to wish violence upon them, these people who are coming, they are the descendants, the direct descendants of the same people we killed for banana money. What the fuck?
Oh, yes. We have no bananas. We have no bananas today. We got string beans and onions and big juicy lemons and all kinds of fruit and say. We've got an old-fashioned tomato, a Long Island potato. Oh, yes. We have no bananas. We have no bananas today. There's a fruit man on our street whose name is Mr. Pete. And he keeps good things to eat, but you should hear him speak. When you ask him anything, he never answers no. He just yeses you to death and then he takes your dough. Oh, yes! We no got the banana. We no got the banana today. We got a little beans and the bigger beans and the red, the beans and the white, the beans and all kinds of beans and say. We got the old-fashioned salami. We even got the Brooklyn pastrami. Oh, yes. We no got the banana. We no got the banana today. business got so good with him, he rode home to say, send Pasquale, Nick, and Jim, I need help right away. When he got them in the store, there was fun, you bet. Someone asked for bananas, and then the whole quartet.
Oh yes, we have no bananas.
We have no bananas today.
We have peppers.
And the carrots.
And celery. And olives.
But we got no bananas today.
Who asked you for bananas anyway? Who asked you? I only want a hot dog sandwich. Hot dogs are better than bananas. I always say, ain't it?
Oh yes.
We have no bananas.